KSCO 1080 AM. We are broadcasting live. This is a real estate talk show, Selling the 831. I am your host, Monica Wason. If this is your first time listening to this show, just a little bit about me. I am a realtor. I have a broker's license, and I'm the owner of M Squared Realty Group. We are self-originating and not under any umbrella brand or franchise. M Square, that's what we call us for short, sells homes all over California, and I'm hosting this show to answer any buyer or seller questions you may have. If you want to look up our brokerage, the website is sellingthe831.com, no spaces, just type it in like it's all one word. You can also Google me, Monica Wason. Wason is with one S, and you'll get a variety of hits. I hope you enjoy listening, and hopefully you take away some good information. As I said, we are broadcasting live in Santa Cruz, California, and I want to encourage people to call in to join into the conversation. The number here is 831-479-1080. That's 831-479-1080. I'm going to do things a little different today. If you've heard the first two episodes, you'll know that my timing is horrible, and I seem to never have enough time to properly end my show. So there are a few topics I want to make sure that I cover before I get to my special guest that's here with me in the studio. So we are now on Season 1, Episode 3 of Selling the 831, and I feel I've gotten a really great response from the first two shows. Lots of people I feel have called into the show, and I've given out my cell phone and have received calls and texts while not on the air from listeners. So I'm happy that people are tuning in. And because of the great response, I've committed to KSCO for doing this for the long term. So keep the calls coming. I'll answer any real estate questions the best I can. And if you don't want to be on the air, you can also reach me on my cell phone at 831-241-1236, and I'll get to those calls later today. Okay. Enough patting myself on the back. Now I'm going to brag about one of my M Square agents, Christina Cervantes, and her new amazing listing in Moss Landing. It just went live online this past Tuesday, and it really is a gem. In case you're listening from out of the area, Moss Landing is a coastal town that is located between Santa Cruz and Monterey. The address is 8504 Laguna Place, which is located in the neighborhood behind the Moss Landing Cafe. It's the last street before you hit the beach. This property is super unique, and since it is the last street before the beach, the only backyard neighbor you'll have if you buy this is Mother Nature herself. It's not only on the last street, but it's the very last house at the end of the street, and the street is elevated, so it's placed the highest, and there's also no side neighbor, so no back neighbor and no side neighbor. It's technically a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. There is an additional room that was originally the bedroom. However, the closet was removed, so we're calling it a bonus room or a flex room. However, that room can easily be made into a 3-bedroom. There's approximately 900 square feet of deck space, so it could not be more perfect for entertaining. The price is $1.29 million, which I think is a steal since the most recent properties to sell in Moss Landing were all condos, and all 3 went for over $2 million and over. Last week, I went over how realtors price homes by pulling comps. Well, this one was tough since the last comp home to sell in this neighborhood was in 2021. So this will be a record-breaking price for this neighborhood. If you'd like to come check out the property, tomorrow Christina will be hosting a twilight open house from 4 to 6 p.m. I'll also be there, so if you're in the market or you just want to pop in to say hi, then please come. Open houses will also be held Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 12. If you have any questions, give Christina a call at 831-455-5077. That's 831-455-5077. And just so other realtors out there know, I love empowering my agents. M Square has a fresh new culture that really is special. I feel it's special. And if there's any agents out there shopping for a quote unquote new home, then keep us in mind. We are based out of Monterey County, but also cover Santa Cruz and San Benito County. And we're members of Santa Cruz County Association of Realtors, as well as the Monterey County Association of Realtors. One more thing about this Moss Landing listing, I want to give a special shout out to Red Heifer Productions. Isaiah, the owner, did an amazing job with the photos. He did inside, outside, he did aerial shots, everything came out amazing. He also built a custom website for the property and constructed a virtual 3D tour. And this was the first time we used Isaiah and his company Red Heifer Productions. We were so impressed that I asked him to call into the show today, but unfortunately he's running around, he's a little busy, so maybe he'll be able to call in next Thursday. But if any realtors are out there listening, hire this guy. Your sellers will definitely appreciate the marketing. His website is redheiferproductions.com, but we found him on IG, so you can also go to Instagram to Red Heifer Productions. So, okay, next business. Today I have a special guest. Joining us is Ono. He is a damage investigator from PG&E. And his specialty deals with excavation-related damages. And he's also with the 811 Call Before You Dig program. So, hi, Ono. Welcome.
Hi, Monica, and thank you very much for having me here today.
Yes, no, thank you for coming. I know you're super busy. So I called PG&E because I heard a lot about the damage homeowners were having to deal with after the recent set of storms. As you know, we saw the down power lines, trees down, major flooded areas, lots of damage to homes. Ono, how did this affect your job? Did you get a lot of calls or?
Well, with what I do, with what I investigate, underground damage to PG&E facilities, fencing, which is occurs a lot, especially after a storm, fencing damage. That was probably the top of my list as far as dealing with any underground damages, folks out there repairing their fences, whether it was a licensed contractor, but in most cases it's a homeowner who's working on their fence. And almost every time it involved the homeowner not calling 811 to have their underground utilities marked before they begin digging to repair the fence.
So the homeowner has the fence and the wind was so strong that it blew it down, or did a tree fall on the fence, or I guess various?
Either one of those situations, but most likely it was from wind damage.
Oh, I see. So if something like that happens, that's what they do then? Their first thing should be call the 811, call before you dig?
Right. So if I could speak of the 811 program for a minute or two here. To start off, it's a free program. Doesn't cost you anything to use the program. And basically it's a program that you call in either by phone or online, and you provide a lot of information that gets you what they eventually call a USA ticket, underground service alert ticket. And what that does is it starts in motion the process of having utility companies that service your area to respond out there and mark any underground utilities that are within your work area that you've designated out there. And it's a little bit of a waiting period. It's 2 days once you call, not counting the day that you call, for everyone to get out there and mark it. So, and you can learn a lot about the program by just going to the USA North website, which is the USA office that services the Central Coast. They're based out of Concord up in the Bay Area. So they'll come out and mark it so you have an idea of where everything is underground before you start digging, so you can remain safe and also not damage anything, because if something is damaged, that utility company has to come out and repair it, and most likely you'll get a bill for the repairs.
Geez, you know what? Another thing that prompted me to call was because a buyer of mine purchased a home out in a rural area, and a tree fell. It was his tree, so it's in his property, and it fell in his yard. It didn't hit the home, it didn't hit a fence, but it was a very large tree, and when it fell, I guess a lot of part of the roots were coming out of the ground. Well, he called me because he called his homeowner's insurance, and they apparently didn't cover any of this because it didn't actually hit what they called an insured property. So it didn't hit a car, it didn't hit the house, it just fell in the land. But then he was asking me if his 1-year home warranty would cover it, and I doubted it, but I gave him his information again because that's something that I had for him to refer to. But I did think to tell him, you know, you might want to call PG&E before you start pulling out this root or cutting it up. So have you seen instances like that, or?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because just in the last week I've had 3 incidents involving roots from trees and folks removing tree stumps and cutting through these roots to help them remove the stump. And sometimes these underground utilities get intertwined with the root system underground. And these root systems are so strong that they actually move some of these underground utilities, whether it be, you know, one of our gas service lines, underground electric service lines, or other utilities, telecom, phone services, stuff like that. But with that being said, you know, by calling 811 or going online and getting your USA ticket and having that underground facilities marked, you'll have an idea, is there something there? And these 3 instances that I've had, and that's just within the last week, and I've had many, many more prior to that, a lot of these homeowners were cutting through roots with little saws and thinking that they were okay, that there was nothing underneath the tree, and while cutting through roots, you know, accidentally cut through their own gas service line. So now they have natural gas escaping. They have an emergency situation, and so which can be very, very dangerous. You know, PG&E utilities, gas and electric, either one, and a combination of both is very, very dangerous. So that's why I strongly urge homeowners to call 811 before they're going to do any type of excavation-related work, so they have an idea where everything is located on their property.
And then it's also a good idea when they first purchase a home, right? Is that free too for them to come out just to kind of know what's under the ground?
Well, they have to have a reason for calling. They have to have an excavation-related reason for calling and obtaining a USA ticket, because that's one of the questions they're going to ask you when you call in 811 is, you know, what's the purpose of your excavation? So just to find out where everything is, that's not reason enough. You know, either you're planting a tree or doing some kind of landscape service or putting up a fence, something that requires, a digging involved with it is required to obtain a USA ticket.
Okay. So if anyone that's listening wants to call and ask the expert himself any kind of digging-related questions around your home, please call in. The number here is 831-479-1080. So, Ono, do you know, I tried looking up exactly how much damage was done to how many homes, but from what I saw, the exact amount of damage hadn't been tallied yet. But the only thing I saw was it said thousands of homes in California have been red tagged as uninhabitable. Do you know maybe on the local side, like here in Santa Cruz or Monterey or Hollister, do you have like an idea of how many homes actually were damaged so bad that people can't live in them from this past storm?
Yeah, I don't have that information, Monica, but I can tell you this, that, you know, PG&E set up a storm center. It's right on the border of Santa Cruz and SoCal. It's the old Santa Cruz flea market site for storm-related responses to repair damages in the Central Coast area. And that's staffed by PG&E personnel. It's staffed by second-party contractors from all over California and some from even out of state that PG&E has brought in to help expedite repairs for gas and electric. And a lot of that damage was centered in the Santa Cruz Mountains area. So, and this isn't my first time visiting one of these storm centers, and it's quite impressive how it's basically a tent city that's set up out there with all the equipment, supplies, personnel to respond to, get people their gas back and their electricity back as soon as possible.
So, I'm sorry. So, if someone's home was damaged, then they had these storm centers that they could go to, and those were equipped with like sleeping arrangements?
Well, no, it's specifically for PG&E personnel.
Oh, for PG&E personnel.
Right,
okay.
to respond to any of the reported damage, to start the process of repairs and getting people back in service, whether it's gas or electric.
Ah, okay, I see. Man, before I was talking to my mom on the phone on the way to the station, and her yard is, I don't know, like half an acre, but it's all landscaped, and she's always planting big like rose bushes or so is that something that she should be calling for the 811 call before you dig, if it's something like a plant from Lowe's, Home Depot, like just landscaping?
Very good question. So generally for landscaping purposes, planting flowers, that kind of stuff, for a homeowner, 811 USA ticket not required. The only time that a homeowner is required to obtain a USA ticket is if they're digging and have a project that required a permit from their city or county, wherever they reside. But I always encourage people, call at least once for a minor landscaping job that you have at your house, maybe planting rose bushes or something similar to that. And that way you have a general idea of where everything is located, because a year or two from now you might have a bigger project and maybe forget to call 811, but you kind of remember, hey, I remember there was a mark over here of some type. There's something underground here. It's just a triggering mechanism, hopefully down the road, that will, help a homeowner avoid, potential injury and, maybe paying a utility company down the road for repairs.
Sure. So I guess that would be a good excuse if you buy a home, right? And then you could call and say, hey, I'm planning on doing a big landscape project. I want to know where everything is underground, right. And then that would be a free service? It
is a free service. 811 is free, like I mentioned earlier. Okay. And just if I could elaborate a little bit more on what to expect once you call in to get your USA ticket. So once you call in, there's a waiting period, like I said, of 2 days, not counting the day you call in, holidays or weekends. So during that 2-day waiting period, each utility company in your area will come out, mark the site. And by mark the site, I mean they will put out flags, paint, those types of marks to designate what's they're marking. It's all color-coded. For example, in my world, in PG&E, I deal with yellow for natural gas and red for electricity. And then there's blue for water, green for storm drains and stuff like that, and orange for telecommunications. So you have to know what each color means. So that'll give you an idea of what's in that general area of that mark. So once everything is marked out, you look at your color codes, you have an idea of what's underground. And one very important thing is a lot of people think that wherever they find this mark, whether it's paint or flags, that utility is going to be found directly underneath that mark. A lot of times it is.
Yeah,
it is.
That's what I would think.
The California Government Code, which dictates the excavation laws here in California, allows for what they call a tolerance zone. It's a 2-foot tolerance zone on each side of that mark. So basically that utility, based on where that mark is, could be within a 4-foot range of that mark. Again, 2 feet on each side. So don't think that line is directly under that mark. There's a tolerance zone, because locating is a very difficult process. And our locators here in the Central Coast and throughout the PG&E service area do an excellent job of locating and marking underground utilities, but it's not an exact science. They face other things that affect marking a utility. For example, they could get interference from a nearby underground utility. There can be a broken tracer wire that they're dealing with. So it's not an exact science. The law allows for that little tolerance zone, room for error of 2 feet on each side. So don't think that utility is located directly underneath that mark.
That's good to know.
It is, because most people don't know that. People that dig for a living, contractors that are out there digging on a day-to-day basis, they're aware of that information, but homeowners typically are not.
Right. So, I've seen that, right? I mean, we've done it, where the homeowner puts the paint on their lawn or on their dirt where they want to plant a tree or want to plant something. So does that have to be color coded?
It is. Another great question, Monica. You came prepared today.
Hey.
So as I mentioned, utilities are color coded.
Right.
Like I said, yellow for gas, red for electricity. The area to be excavated, in other words, if you're the homeowner calling in, you have to put the marks down of the area where you're going to dig. Mm-hmm. Those are called delineation marks, and those are in white, and white only. So It could be white paint, white flags, white, wooden stakes that are painted white. And you'll get asked that question when you call 811. Did you delineate your area? And you'll say yes, and they'll ask you, okay, what did you use? Okay, I used white paint. And that'll be in the USA ticket that our locators receive, so they know what to look for. But if you're a homeowner and you're going to be digging in a small area and you want to know where everything else is, you might want to think about maybe placing those delineation marks from property line to property line, so that way everything is marked and not just your one little area where you're going to be planting a small tree.
Ah, I see. So
because we're only going to locate, our locators are only going to locate
where
you mark. Exactly. So in order to have your entire property marked, you have to basically go property line to property line. Again, I recommend that homeowners do this on a one-time basis, just so you have an idea during your current project. But our locators are also very busy. And, again, with my recommendation, I also say don't make a habit of this.
Sure.
Because they're busy. These USA tickets are nonstop. They come in, 24/7, and they have a lot of work out there. But I'm sure they would, wouldn't mind marking your site at least one time, your home one time, so you have an idea as a homeowner. But again, I recommend it once, but I don't recommend making a habit of it.
Got it. So let's say, just to keep going on that, the homeowner does just want to plant something, I don't know, whatever. They want to make maybe some kind of outdoor barbecue pit or something. And they only mark, or they don't mark anything, but they're there when the PG&E locator comes out. Will they just can they point and say, I want to put it there, or does it actually have to be with the white paint?
There's got to be some white paint or white stakes or white flags, because our locators, there's liability involved with this situation, in that we have to take photos of what area you want excavated, and those photos include your delineations, your white marks. So, yeah, and our locators, they carry the white paint also, so they'll help the homeowner mark it out. In that respect, I carry the white paint. I've done it many times for a homeowner out there that needs help with us, because again, most homeowners are not that familiar with the program to know these things. So we help out as much as we can. The other thing, if I could add one other thing, is the tolerance zone that I mentioned earlier, the 2 foot on each side of the mark. Most homeowners are not going to use any type of heavy equipment, mechanical equipment, that's not human, that's, how should I put this? It's not powered by humans, a shovel, post hole digger. They're not going to have a little mini excavator, a power auger, those types of things. But if you are a homeowner and you are going to use power equipment, the law says that you have to use hand tools within that tolerance zone to expose any marked underground utility before you can use the power equipment. So you have to locate it and expose it. And again, this is to prevent damage and prevent injury to whoever's digging out there. So again, if you're going to use power equipment, make sure you use hand tools prior to using the power equipment within that tolerance zone.
Okay. There's like a lot to know in this.
And there is. And again, you can find all this information on the USA North website also.
Okay, so we're going to take a commercial break, but before we do, I just want to give the phone number again. It's 831-479-1080.
What's that? You say you can't get it up? Oh, it goes up and you can't get it down? It only goes halfway up? Okay, we are talking about your garage door, right? Well, you called the right place. I'm Eric. Me and my crew at Lighthouse Door Company, we specialize in garage door repair and all types of garage door and opener installations. We've proudly served the Monterey and the Santa Cruz area since 2005. From basic metal garage doors to custom wood garage doors, we do it all, and we do it at a fair price. And if you mention KSCO, we'll even give you a 10% discount. You can call or text 831-655-1419. We look forward to working with you.
Give me a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast
Okay, folks, we are back. Selling the 831 with my special guest, Ono from PG&E. So it's funny because Ono we were talking, and a lot of people don't realize that it's not just digging, it's putting stakes in the ground, right?
Right. Well, I mentioned the California Government Code earlier, that dictates the excavation laws here in California. Well, in that section of the Government Code, it also defines what excavation is. And people seem to think, well, digging is a shovel or a backhoe, those types of things.
Right.
And what they fail to understand also, if you read that definition, it involves disturbing the soil, the natural soil. So by that, you not just necessarily talking using a shovel or using a backhoe. If you're introducing a probe or a stake into the ground, that's considered excavation because you're disturbing the natural soil. And I've had plenty of those incidents that I've investigated also, where stakes are being driven into the ground and damaging underground utilities.
Yeah, so there's a point I want to make to that, but we have a call, so let's take this call. And let's see. Hi, Yvonne.
Yes?
Hi, Yvonne. You're on the air selling 831.
Okay, well, I have a question or a clarification I want to make. I've been listening to the show, and I am a gardener. And I wanted to know if there's like a minimum depth that you're digging before you should be concerned. So, for instance, should I say if I'm only going to dig maybe 10 inches down into the dirt, is there really any chance of hitting anything? Or do I really have to make an 811 call just to dig that deep?
Excellent question, Yvonne. I get asked that question a lot. And there is no depth minimum requirement. So any excavation whatsoever, any disturbance of the soil is required for 811 USA ticket. And I can tell you that based on my experience of investigating hundreds and hundreds of incidents of damage to underground PG&E utilities, that there are times when some of these utilities are very shallow, especially in the older neighborhoods when these facilities were installed many years ago, and then throughout the years different things happened on that property, maybe a landscaping project that removed several inches or a foot of grade of soil and now has even made that facility even shallower, or root systems that have moved underground utilities upwards towards the top of the grade, or erosion type situations. So to answer your question, depth does not play a role at all.
Okay, so in my case, like if say I'm going to plant several plants, I usually plant like 5-gallon plants, so I'm digging down a good 2 feet to accommodate the plant, or even a 15-gallon tree. So should I go around then thinking in advance? Because what if I only have one? I'm going to do one at a time. I don't know if I should be calling 811 every time I want to plant something like that.
Have you ever called previously, Yvonne?
I have not.
Okay, so my suggestion to you, even if you're planting one, earlier in the show I mentioned call at least one time. so you have an idea of where something is. And I've seen homeowners, once they've called and everything's marked out, they kind of create their own little marks out there. They paint rocks or what, something to, yellow for gas and red for electricity and for PG&E. They kind of make it decorative so they have an idea of where this stuff is, so they don't have to call a second time. They have a general idea of where it's located. Okay, so we can
remember.
Exactly. Some kind of little personal marker, whatever you deem, is appropriate that would help you remember in the future for future projects. But like I said, I always recommend call at least one time.
Okay, and then my last question along those lines is, I have a general idea of where our septic tank is located on our property, but not really, I don't really know how far and wide it is. Is that something that if I call 811 that they will locate that for me and give me some boundaries of where that is?
So a good question. Utility companies are only going to mark the utilities that they own. So if for PG&E, for example, we're going to mark our utilities up to the meter, up to the gas meter, up to the electric meter. Everything beyond that, all your electric and your gas beyond that is customer owned, what we refer to as a house line, a customer owned house line. And anything that's underground beyond the meters, that's customer responsibility if that's damaged. And, you would have to call a plumber, for gas or electric, or electrician to fix anything that you damage beyond the meter. And there are private locating companies out there that you can hire if you need that kind of service. But for a septic tank, that's customer owned. And so you're kind of on your own on that one.
Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem.
Oh, and Yvonne, don't forget that 2 feet on each side, little leeway. So, did you hear that earlier in the show?
Right. A 2 to 3 foot circumference around where you mark.
Right. And, Yvonne, and I really appreciate the call. And one thing I wanted to include with what Monica just mentioned is sometimes homeowners don't want to call and go through the process because they see their gas meter, typically on the side of their house, and they assume that their gas line basically runs from the street in a direct line to their meter. A lot of times that's not the case. And so by having it marked, you'll have an idea of the path. And there's other things involved. For example, there's what we call a mother service and a branch service. You could have your gas line running from the gas main and the street to your meter, and in between there, between the gas main and the meter, there's what we call a branch service that runs over to your neighbor's house. And most people don't know that either, and that's pretty common. And the only way you're going to know that is if you have your property marked for your project.
Okay, so not only could we damage our own house, we could be doing something to our neighbor.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's not a fun time when you have damage an underground gas line and you have natural gas escaping. That's an emergency. That's a 911 call, and typically you're going to have the fire department respond out there. PG&E obviously is going to respond out there, and because that has to be addressed immediately and made safe.
Okay. All right, great. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate your help so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, that was a good call.
It was. Very, very nice of Yvonne to call in.
Yeah. So going back to the stakes in the ground, as a realtor, we stake the for sale signs when we are selling a home. And that is... So when we want to do that, then our process is we go to the home, we put the white flag where we want to stake the sign, right?
Right.
But let's say that's not a good area, and you end up saying no. Do you let us know, this isn't a good area, but this is? Or do we just put, multiple flags so we know, you tell us which one?
This is my suggestion, and I'm glad you brought this up because I've actually investigated incidents involving real estate signs where either a hole is being dug out for a post hole for the sign, or more commonly, they're stakes now, where whoever's installing the sign drives a stake into the ground, and then the sign is basically a sleeve that fits over the stake.
That's what we have.
Okay,
for our brokerage.
so I would suggest you pick a bigger area in case, so when we go out there and we mark the area, you can see, well, there's a gas line running here. I'm going to move it over to this side. Instead of limiting yourself just to that one little spot, maybe make it a 5x5 or something that's larger in area, so you have choices if something happens to be located underground in the area where you want to put your sign up.
Got it. So then probably the easiest thing for us to do would maybe just draw like a very long, white rectangle.
Sure.
So we can say somewhere in here
Right.
we want to place our sign.
Right. Or get the white flags. You can find those at a hardware store and just keep a supply of those.
Okay. And then do you guys, if we do that, do you guys come and then if it's near the sidewalk, do you also spray paint the sidewalk? Because I've seen that sometimes.
Yeah, our locators generally will mark. So say for example you designate a 5 foot by 5 foot area with flags or whatever. That's your delineated excavation area. Mm-hmm. If there is a PG&E underground utility not within your area but within 2 feet outside your area, we will mark that at a maximum of 2 feet outside your area, just to tell you, hey, there's nothing in your area, but there's something pretty close just outside of it.
Got it. Okay.
And again, getting back to the safety part of this, Monica, is I've seen there are situations where not only do you have your gas service line or your electric service line running underground to your property, but there are times, believe it or not, that there are much larger underground utilities running through your property, in front of your property. And by that I mean a gas main. A 2-inch, 4-inch gas main that runs through people's property, and they are not even aware of that, or an electric primary. So we're talking a bigger facility, more dangerous, and you won't even know it unless you have it marked.
And that would be horrible to drive a stake.
But it's bad enough, damaging,
main.
say, your gas service line, which is generally a 1/2 inch or a 1 inch in diameter service. But you damage something that's 2 inches or 4 inches, and a lot more pressure, and obviously more dangerous also.
So sellers, if you're out there, or potential sellers, that would be something good to ask your realtor before they drive that stake in your ground, if they've called 811, the call before you dig. Because otherwise, if they do puncture a gas line, I bet that would be an ugly situation, because who's responsible, right?
It's dangerous, and obviously the primary concern is the safety of whoever's digging out there. But it's also, we encourage you to call in because we want to protect our assets, our PG&E assets, underground assets also. We don't want our crews leaving a work site to respond to an emergency that someone's created because they didn't call 811, and now we have gas escaping. So now that puts them behind in this other project and makes that customer unhappy. So it's kind of a snowball effect. But ultimately, like I said, we want people to stay safe out there.
Right. Well, Ono, can you tell us any, well, let's see this. How you had mentioned how fast you respond when somebody calls the 811. Did you say it was like about 48 hours? Right.
So the day you call in does not count. So today is Thursday.
Right.
So if you call in today for a USA ticket, your waiting period will be tomorrow, Friday, will be your first waiting day. Mm-hmm. The weekend does not count. So by Monday at 5 p.m. is your 2-day waiting period is over, and everything should have been marked by then.
Oh, so that's pretty quick.
It is, and it applies. The USA generally applies to planned events, like fixing a fence, that type of stuff. But there's also what we call emergency tickets. And they almost always apply to contractor-related work. And emergency tickets, you get a lot faster response, but it has to be a validated emergency. And just like excavation is defined in the government code, an emergency is also defined. And it covers basically a catastrophic event like an earthquake or maybe these floods that we've had recently. But it also covers what they call essential public services, which includes water and sewer. So if you don't have water service at your house or sewer for some reason, those are considered emergencies. And when a contractor goes out to work on your issue with water or sewer, they can call in an emergency service, get a lot faster response to have everything marked to get you back on board with your essential service.
So the 811 call before you dig, is it actually call? Or can you go online? Or?
No, you can either call or you can go online. I know that the service center over in Concord, the USA North, prefers you go online because it alleviates their call center. They do have bilingual services available if you choose to call it by phone. But the more people that I talk to, especially contractors, they prefer the online process. You just have to have a validated address. You can't do an intersection or a property at this corner. There has to be an address that they can actually look up, Google it, however they do Google Maps or whatever that they do at their end over at USA North to validate the address.
I bet that's tough for like the Carmel by the Sea properties, huh?
I'm very familiar with that, and that's a very uncommon situation within the city of Carmel by the Sea, where they go by a street name and the number of houses from a particular corner.
And the direction.
Exactly.
Like
so I've talked to many homeowners over there, and UPS and the mail folks are very good at finding houses over there because they're used to it now.
Right. Yeah, but it is tough, even with myself trying to navigate through there to go look at homes. I still get turned around.
Right.
Good thing I know the ocean's always west, so.
That's a good way to gauge it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It looks like we're going to take another break. And we'll be back.
What's that? You say you can't get it up. Oh, it goes up and you can't get it down. It only goes halfway up. Okay, we are talking about your garage door, right? Well, you called the right place. I'm Eric. Me and my crew at Lighthouse Door Company, we specialize in garage door repair and all types of garage door and opener installations. We've proudly served the Monterey and the Santa Cruz area since 2005. From basic metal garage doors to custom wood garage doors, we do it all, and we do it at a fair price. And if you mention KSCO, we'll even give you a 10% discount. You can call or text 831-655-1419. We look forward to working with you.
Hey, so you're back with Selling the 831. Monica Wason and Ono here. The phone number, if you want to call and ask a question, we have about 10 minutes left, is 831-479-1080. And I know I had put it out on my Facebook that I was going to have Ono here as a guest, and I did ask, are there any questions anyone wants me to ask? And unfortunately, none of them really pertain to the excavation, and it's probably my fault because the question I posed was storm-related safety, so we got a lot of people asking, what happens if the power goes out, or what happens if, if we have solar, does that help with power, and what if we have medical equipment and the power goes out? But that's really not your expertise, right? It
really isn't. Some of these questions can be addressed, though, on the PG&E website, where there's resources there that folks can use.
Okay, so what is that site?
It's just pgne.com.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
Monica, I have a question.
What's up, Bill?
I live in a rural place, and I know that the power comes in on power poles to my house overhead, and we don't have any gas in my neighborhood. Do I have to call before I dig?
I would recommend you do, because it does not just apply to PG&E. It applies to other utility companies, telecommunications, water, those types of things. So I would highly recommend that you do call in.
Yeah, the only reason I'm on a water well and I have my own septic and I know where that is, and I know where all my utilities go on the property.
You'd be surprised of how many incidents I've investigated where someone has damaged an underground utility on their property, and basically the first comment they make to me is, I had no idea that this ran through my property.
So 811 does know where most of the stuff is?
Yes.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, that answers a great question, because I actually live in a fairly rural area, but, who knows where the telephone company ran stuff 40 years ago.
And you kind of, your comment is, what I want to include is that people out there also some people believe that obtaining a USA ticket only applies to maybe the street or public areas. USA applies to all areas, whether it's private property, commercial, streets, anywhere. It applies everywhere. So because you're on private property does not preclude you from calling in.
Cool. All right. Well, that makes sense. And you answered my question. Thank you.
Sure.
Bill, did you have any storm-related damage on your property?
Fortunately, no. But I will say this. One of the major creeks in the Watsonville area goes through my property, Casserly Creek. And I got to tell you, I've never seen that creek that high. It was to the bottom. We have a bridge that connects one half of our property to the other, and it's a right-of-way for my neighbor that lives behind us. And the water was up about 3/4 of the way up that bridge abutment. Oh. It didn't get all the way to the top of the bridge, but it got close.
Yeah. So
and I was wondering seriously about the PG&E lines, because we have a lot of trees, in our area, and periodically the power goes off, how it is. But
that client that I was talking about, my buyer from earlier, the one with the tree that fell, I guess that's what happened to his property. It just got so flooded that it saturated the land. And
the trees just can't hang on anymore after a while. They just blow over. If there's a little bit of a breeze, they just come down, especially eucalyptus trees. And look, the guys that are responsible for trimming the trees around the PG&E power lines are overworked.
I mean, can you imagine if a tree fell down and took the power line with it?
Well, it happens a lot.
Yeah, so I can tell your listeners out there that if you have power lines, or you suspect power lines on your property, and you have a concern about the proximity of a tree falling over, or limbs coming off breaking off the tree and damaging those lines, you can call PG&E at 800 PG&E 5000. And express those concerns, and they'll send an inspector out there from our vegetation management team to, determine whether or not they're PG&E owned power lines, and if any type of trimming, cutting of the tree, or just trimming of the tree is required out there.
Mm-hmm. I know you guys have utilized the technology in helicopters, and that tells you where you got a problem with some of the lines, and that we've seen those guys too. They're working hard.
Bill, have you ever seen the PG&E electric linemen on the towers?
Oh yeah.
They actually they rappel down from a helicopter onto these transmission towers.
Yes, they do.
Wow.
And it's a more efficient way of getting these linemen up to the towers than climbing the towers.
Well, there's all kinds of videos of PG linemen or equivalent in other countries that are just. Look, I used to change the light bulbs on these towers out here. I used to climb towers, and some of the videos that you watch on YouTube of power company linemen, I'm not doing that. No way. I mean, they're literally sitting on the outside of a helicopter working on a power line at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then I feel so bad when everyone kind of poo-poos on PG&E when the power goes out, and these guys, they're like I don't know.
No, I've never
pooped.
I tell you what, I've never talked stink about the linemen who are out standing in the pouring rain fixing the power lines. Those guys aren't the guys that I complain about at PG&E.
I can tell you, based on my experience, there's obviously different reasons why the power goes out. It could be equipment related on the PG&E side. It could be a tree going down or a car hitting a power pole.
All kinds of
things. It could be any one of those things. But PG&E has a lot of hardworking folks out there.
Yes, they
whether
do.
it's a lineman on the electric side or the gas crews or the locators or vegetation management, you name it. There's a lot of hardworking folks out there. There's a lot of work to be done still. And I'm proud to work for PG&E, and I'm really proud of the people that I work with. I work the Central Coast area, so I cover 4 counties. I cover Santa Cruz, Monterey, San Benito, and San Luis Obispo counties.
I want to say something, and I'll say it so you don't have to, okay? When you guys go and make sure that the gas lines are well marked out, think about how dangerous it is if one of those lights on fire, and we've had a couple of incidents in the last couple of years where that point is well illustrated. San Bruno, for instance, right? Okay, that thing lit up and it burned till they could get it under control. Can you imagine that happening if you screw up on your own property? So make the phone call.
Right, and it's free.
Make the phone call.
And it's free. That's the other thing.
And, sometimes I've heard it many times from homeowners that, oh, yeah, I've seen the commercials, and it just didn't occur to me to call in. This is obviously after something bad has happened.
Yeah.
They've hit their gas line or electric line. And, so I get it. It's not something that everyone will think about before they start a digging project. But, again, if you call at least once and have an idea, even on a small project, it might save you from getting hurt and might save you in the pocketbook too.
There you go. And then, you were going to, did you want to give your cell phone number out?
Yeah, I don't mind doing that at all. Like I said, I'm up and down the Central Coast all day with what I do. I love talking to people. I enjoy helping people. I don't mind handing out my work cell phone number. If for a homeowner, especially for the homeowners out there, if you need more information regarding the 811 program, if you need help with delineating at your home, or if you do call in and you still maybe have some questions about some of the marks or how should I dig, can I use power equipment, any of the things that we've talked about today, feel free to call me. I'd be more than happy to, either I do this all the time, either with a phone call, sometimes even FaceTiming with folks out there, and they're showing me what they have a question about, or if I'm available, I'll respond out to the site. I've done that many times to meet with a homeowner and explain what they're looking at. So I don't mind handing out my work cell phone number, and I'll provide it right now. And it's 831-206-5739. So 831-206-5739. Like I said, I do a lot of traveling. A lot of times I can't answer the phone. Leave me a message, and I will definitely get back to you.
Okay, nice. Thanks. Well, looks like our time is almost up. I want to thank you for listening. I'll be broadcasting live on KSCO 1080 AM radio every Thursday from 2 to 3 p.m. There you go. Also, FYI, I'm also for hire. If you'd like me or anyone in my M Square Realty Group to represent you in your real estate transaction, then definitely feel free to contact me. And my cell is 831-241-1236. Thank you for listening to Selling the 831.
This is AM 1080 KSCO Santa Cruz. It's coming up on 3 o'clock.